So good morning, everyone from USA. Good afternoon to people living in Portugal, and a very early morning to people living in the Southeast Asia region. Thanks for taking your time to follow Mercan first webinar for Nomad worldwide. And it is the beginning of the year, and the Golden Visa program is entering its 11th year since October 2012, with a lot of requirement change. And the immigration application stack getting higher, the project portfolio of Mercan is growing bigger, the processing time for an application takes longer to get an approval. And however, the interest of the Golden Visa always remains high. So talking about the timeline, 50% of all the questions sent to our team before this webinar is all about the processing time for this year for an application. And today we will hear the update and the lawyer opinion from Mrs. Ines Costamura, and she is the lawyer and also the general manager at IAS, a legal services and hosting provider firm for the investor of the Golden Visa program. And she will also share to all of you a standard timeline of an application and also to compare for you to see the current situation of the processing timeline. Regarding Mercan, Mr. Jordi Villanova, the president of Mercan Properties in Portugal, will share with us the hospitality trend for this year, the hotel development plan and operations activities of Mercan Group in Portugal. And for the project offering, Mr. Jerry Morgan, the president of Mercan Group, will present 3 available projects at 280,000 euro and 350,000 euro for your hearing. But first of all, let's take a quick look about Mercan Group history and our achievements through years from Jerry sharing. So Jerry.
Well, thank you everyone for coming today. It's a pleasure. I'm actually in Portugal today, so the background looks like not real, but I am actually here. We're very excited to present to you about our different projects, but first I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Mercan. So Mercan, we started in 1989. We're originally from Canada. Over the years, we've established offices throughout the world and been involved in various immigration investor programs throughout the world. The ones we've specialized in particular is in 1991, we started in the United States with the US EB-5 program. Over the years, we did 38 projects and $1.5 billion of investments. In Canada, we also are very active in the program and assisted over 40,000 people in terms of their immigration. Now, we went to Portugal in 2015, and that's when they created the rehabilitation category of 280,000 or 350,000. Since that time, we're now on our 26th hotel project in Portugal. And we're at the point where 1 out of every 2 people going to Portugal under the Golden Visa program will go with our firm. Now, we typically have 2 types of investors. We really specialize in the rehabilitation category. The first one is at 280,000. And generally speaking, that offers no return, but we pay all your taxes, your IMT, your VAT, which is equivalent to about a 2% return. You get 1 free week per year, and you have the guaranteed buyback at the end. So this is very popular if you want to minimize your exposure, minimize your investment, and then this is approach to go. Then we go to the 350,000 euro category. In this program, the difference is the price, but we also pay your taxes again. You also get 1 free week per year, and you have the guaranteed buyback at the end. The difference is you earn a return of 3% per year, payable upon opening of the hotel, and payable each year as long as you own the unit. So now I'll go into Ines.
So, thank you, Jerry.
Enjoy.
So it's a pleasure to be with you today. Yes, I am based here in Portugal, and as Jerry mentioned today, we have the pleasure to have him with us. I just wanted to reflect a bit of what we are doing, what we've been doing very briefly here in Portugal. Since we started in 2015, we were the first ones to actually invest into the rehabilitation category. We're also the first ones to do it on a co-ownership basis, and we were the first ones based on our history, track record, and experience, as Jerry mentioned in the past, in other geographies. So here in Portugal, we were the first ones to offer the buyback option. Today, so that's how we started 2015. Today, we have a team of over 100 people, and we are, again, the first ones in that space to have already 5 hotels open, 3 more to open in the coming months, and we have a total of 22 projects. Our strategy here in Portugal has been to provide the best experience to our investors. That's why we have a partnership. That's why we have a partnership with IAS, and we have a partnership with AHM. What the partnership with IAS provides is the most efficient way to go through the Golden Visa process and citizenship. And what the AHM experience provides as a hotel operator is to make sure that all our hotels are profitable and generate the cash flows, so we will buy back in due course. So that's a unique business model that we have set up, and that's why we have these partnerships with IAS and IHM. And now let me talk a bit about hospitality, and especially after COVID-19. So not only in 2022, the hospitality figures surpassed especially during the last 8 months of the year. So basically from June till the end of the year, so since May till the end of the year, our results were over 2019. But just to give you a couple of details. So today we have 11 flights, direct flights to North America daily, and we have 3 direct flights to Asia daily. This gives you an indication, in addition to Ryanair in Porto being the hub for Southern Europe, how the hospitality is growing here in Portugal. And then last but not least, which is about why Portugal. So let me just share the first and foremost reason of why Portugal, which is safety. Yes, safety. So today Portugal ranks amongst the top tier, actually the number 3 country, the safest country in the world. But in addition to safety, there are other features which make Portugal the preferred destination for the Golden Visa programs. It's a very powerful passport, the 6th best passport in the world, excellent health services. Actually, as a Portuguese citizen, you have free health services, political stability, and especially in this day and age, that's something that is really relevant. Free education. You probably have seen many statistics or many different magazines about being the best destination in the world. It has a great tax regime, and of course, that's why many people mention that Portugal is probably the California or the Florida of Europe, with more than 3,000 hours of sunshine per year. And with this, I'll pass it to Ines, General Manager of ES, who provides all the legal services for the Golden Visa processing. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. A pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much for attending. So IIS is the company, is a consultancy company that does the processing of all Golden Visa for Mercan investors. So IIS has been around since 2017. We've been doing, like I said, the processing for over 2,500 families so far. We include all the services that a Golden Visa investor and their family might need throughout the process. We are talking also about quite a long process. It takes just 5 years for the card, plus preparing everything. So we accompany the investor throughout all the process since the beginning till the end. And we have a team, a multidisciplinary team that will provide all the support that all investors require during this process. So in terms of investment categories, as my colleagues have mentioned so far, we have 2 investment categories for the rehabilitation. These are the lower categories in terms of investment for the Golden Visa program. There are other categories, but they require a higher investment. We have the 350 investment that is the investment required and the normal investment required for this category. And you have the 280 investment that has a 20% reduction in terms of the minimum amount. And this investment is required to be done in low density areas. So when you have a low density area, the Portuguese government decided to create an incentive and lowered by 20% the minimum amount required to do this investment in Portugal. In both categories, you are investing in rehabilitation of an existing building. These buildings must be over 30 years and they must be located in the city centers, meaning in the urban rehabilitation areas. These areas are defined by the municipalities of each city. So we have these 2 categories where the Mercan projects are actually located. So in terms of advantages, Jordi already mentioned a few advantages of Portugal. The Golden Visa, the RE program, will allow you, as you heard so far, free access to Portuguese healthcare and education. There is no language or academic credentials required to be part of this program. It's fast and simple, the process. It's an administrative process, but it's fast and simple. You get to, once you get your RE card, you get to travel freely within the Schengen area. There are no taxes charged on your worldwide income, according to Portuguese tax law, nor do you become a tax resident in Portugal upon obtaining your RE card, your residence permit. You get access to Portuguese citizenship and European Union benefits, and you have the right to live, do business and study in Portugal and other UE member countries upon getting the citizenship, upon getting your citizenship. So moving on, in terms of requirements, the main investor must be over 18 years old. It must hold, the main investor, of course, must hold a valid passport. There's a minimum stay requirement that corresponds to 7 days per year or 14 days every 2 years. It's a 5-year investment counted from the date of the issuance of your card, and you do not require any management experience as other programs do require in order for investors to apply. So what are the steps of this process? How long will it take to get to the end if we started today? So the process starts with, of course, the signing of a contract. The first step is to obtain, after the contract is signed, to obtain your tax ID number. This takes about 2 to 3 days after we receive the documents. Opening the bank account. The bank accounts are taking between 6 to 8 weeks to be opened. Since last month, we got a more stable timeline here. So it takes about 6 to 8 weeks. Once the bank account is open, the funds should be transferred. We perform the deed on your behalf as soon as the transfers hit your account. And upon conclusion of the deed, we submit all your documents to SEF and complete your application. That's when your Golden Visa process really starts in terms of immigration. Upon the submission of the process, you have a pre-approval period that is taking 6 to 8 months currently. We do expect it to go down. I'll explain why in closer to the end of my presentation. And you get a pre-approval. With the pre-approval, you get a notice to come for biometrics in Portugal. With that notice, you come to Portugal, submit the original documents that you submitted when you first applied online. You collect fingerprints, you collect a photo, the biometrics, and then you get approved and your card is issued and the 5-year deadline starts counting. That 5-year deadline requires 2 further renewals of the card. So you will get issued a card with a validity of 2 years. Then you are required to renew it for an additional period of 2 years, and then a second renewal for an additional period of 2 years. Following the 5th year of the validity of your card, counted from the date of the issuance of the first card, you have 2 options. You can opt to go to permanent residency. Usually this is a decision made by many investors or family members that are not allowed to have 2 nationalities, dual citizenship, or you can go to citizenship. The requirements are quite similar, and as I said, upon the 5th year of the validity of your card, you do have these 2 options to move forward. In terms of our workflow, we start with the onboarding. Then we have the lawyers that follow up with all the immigration process. In parallel, we always have the paralegal team working in back office that provides transversal support to all areas of IIS. We have a team of translators, both in-house and partners. We have a team of investor relations that supports clients, both when they have doubts about the process and when they come to Portugal. They usually meet with our investor relations team that will help them to all non-legal related matters. We have a hosting team working solely with IIS investors. This hosting team will help you, will support you coming to Portugal, booking your trips. You, as an IIS investor, will be entitled to free pickups and drop-offs from the airport to your hotel, from your hotel to SEF, from SEF to the bank, because we always ask investors to go and meet their bank account managers and to see the projects, to guarantee that you have a 360 view of your investment and your process in Portugal. And we also offer Portuguese classes. There is a specific platform designed for IAS investors with a Portuguese teacher that specializes exactly on the Portuguese test required to access permanent residency or citizenship. The platform is very easy and all the information is available on our website. In terms of numbers, just to give you an overall view, we currently have over, this number is a bit outdated, it gets outdated every day, but over 2,000 investors, now closer to 2,500 main investors. This is, of course, our families, 2,000 families. We deal with over 93 nationalities, so for sure we'll be able to help assist you getting documents almost any country in the world at this stage. Appointments scheduled from June to December last week, biometric appointments over 1,000. The daily average of appointments from June to December is close to 4. This means 4 people in Portugal, all over Portugal, doing biometric appointments. This year to date done until the end of December, so year of 2022, 676 deeds. We requested over 1,900 tax ID numbers. We opened over 1,000 bank accounts, and we got over 900 approvals until December 2022. There's a number that is not included here, but I always like to mention it, which is the number of refusals. To this date, IIS got 0 refusals for Mercan investors. We never got an investor or a family member refused since the beginning of the program for Mercan investments. Just to give you a quick view on our hosting services from January to December, so 2022, these are the number of transfers in Porto and Lisbon. And on the right chart, you have the number of the room nights that our investors spent at their hotels, the 5 hotels that Mercan currently has open. And this is the number of nights that investors spent in their hotels during the year of 2022. So we have a few updates to give you. We always know that people want to know the latest trends and the latest news. The latest news is, of course, as many of you have heard, automatic renewals of the RE cards. So a couple of weeks back, about 2.5 weeks, the government SEF decided to allow automatic renewals for Golden Visa investors that have their card expired, that had their card expired until December 31st, 2022, and also the cards that will expire until March March 31st, of course, 2023. So for this quarter, what does this mean specifically? This means that a new portal was open to these investors, where we register the investors, submit their request for renewal, ask for CEF to accept it. CEF then issues a notice for payment, and upon payment of the notice, the request is finalized and it goes to be basically analyzed by CEF. The main differences between the previous way to do renewals and the current way is that investors are not required to submit the documents, the civil documents again, or the proof of stay at a first stage, and they are not required to come to Portugal to collect biometrics. That being said, CEF already informed that there will be random checks and random requests for these documents. So investors are still required to come and spend the 7 or 14 days in Portugal, keep the proofs of that stay, and of course we'll assist you with that, and they will need to have the civil documents to be submitted in case they are investors that are, of course, the subject of those random checks. This rule, of course, has certain exceptions. Children under a certain age are still required to come for biometrics, are not allowed to do automatic renewal. So it's very important that we continue to assist you here, because it's not as simple as it may seem. However, this is great news. This will help resolve the backlog of renewals, appointments for renewals that were being consumed, and that could be used for investors that are waiting for biometrics to be accepted in the program. That's why I said that we believe that the deadline, the current timelines for pre-approvals, for approvals, will be reduced in the following months, because CEF has been resolving this backlog. Also, investors that have been submitted in the last months, we had a huge surge in demand because of the changes in the program. We are very close to overcoming that big spike in demand that caused some delays. We hope that we are very, very close, less than a month probably. So I believe, we do all believe, that the current trend, or the future trend, very, very new trend for the program, is going to be a severe reduction in terms of the deadlines for approvals. We are waiting to see, but that's what we think will happen. And then the opening of CEF appointments for collection that took place during December 23 and allowed us to book over 350 appointments for investors that were waiting for biometrics. And these are investors that got pre-approved until 15 November 2021. Okay, these are the latest trends that we have in terms of the Golden Visa program. And I think that my presentation for now ends here. So the next presenter will be Jerry, I think, no?
Thank you. And what I'd like to do now is to talk about the 3 projects that we'll have available today. As I mentioned, we have some at 280,000, some at 350. Today, we'll talk about one project, which is in a city called St. Andre, which is at 280,000. Then we have one in Lisbon, in the heart of Lisbon, which is 350,000. And then we have one in Porto, which is 350,000. So we have 3 projects in 3 different locations to talk about today. So the first project I'll talk about is the Ocean View, which is in Hotel St. Andre. Here's a picture of the hotel. It's a beautiful hotel. It's a small hotel, but it's going to be located, it's a 4-star hotel being located in a city called St. Andre. We like to call this Little Comporte because it's near the city of Comporte, the very famous tourist destination. But this project is located more close to the beach. It's right on the beach. And this particular location has no mosquitoes. So it's very attractive from that point of view. Here's a picture of the location. As I mentioned, it's right beside the beach, and beside it you have famous lagoons that are located in the area. So it's a great natural environment, full of wildlife and a lot of vegetation. So it's really quite a historic and beautiful area. Here's a picture, an aerial picture where you can see the circle in gold is the location of the hotel. Again, as I mentioned, it's right on the beach, and around it you have a lot of natural habitat, and it's a pretty open, natural environment, getting you away from the city. This is Alatenjo on Atlantic coast. As I mentioned, it's very famous for the Saint Andre Lagoons. Nearby, you have the Melendez Beach, which is one of the nicest beaches in the area. You also have the Badoka Safari Park and a famous historic town called Grandela. This area is very famous for gastronomy. It's also famous for the wines that they have in the region. And the beaches here are some of the best beaches in all of Portugal. The city itself is an hour and a half from Lisbon and 2 hours from Faro. Here's another picture of the hotel. As I mentioned, it's a 4-star internationally branded hotel with 46 rooms. So it's not that large a project, but it will have meeting rooms, a rooftop swimming pool, and the balconies. And the balconies have gorgeous views of the sea. I have a gymnasium, bar, and restaurant. Here's a conceptual drawing of the lobby area. The rooms will all be 4 stars. Rooftop swimming pool with gorgeous views. And this project is for 65 investors. The investment amount is 280,000. As I mentioned, you get 0 return, but we pay all your taxes, your VAT, your IMT, which is about 30,000 euros and equivalent to a 2% return. You get 1 free week per year, and you have the guaranteed buyback at the end. So this project's on sale now. It's a great, if you want looking for a great entry point project, this is it. You couldn't get a prettier hotel in a nicer location. Now, next, I'll go into the big city. Our next project is Riverside in downtown Lisbon. Here's a picture of the hotel. Another picture. So this particular hotel is right in the heart of Lisbon, right on the river. So it's a great location. And here you'll have a closer view. So you see the gold picture there. So that's the location. You can see it's right on the river, and it's right beside the Time Out Market. This particular area is the trendy area of Lisbon. You have all your bars and restaurants in the area. If you want to be in the nightlife and the activity, you're there. This is a great nightlife area. This hotel has 70 rooms. It's a 4-star internationally branded hotel. It has 6 floors. And here's another picture. This project is for 110 investors. Again, we pay all your taxes. Again, we pay your IMT, VAT. You get 1 week free per year, and you have the guaranteed buyback at the end. So this project's good for 110 investors. Lisbon itself has everything. It's the largest city in Portugal. It's one of the largest tourist destinations in Europe. The particular city you have all the history. It's got lots of historic. You have the culture, and you have nightlife and dining. And if you want the beaches, you're beside all fantastic beaches. So you have everything in Lisbon. So it's a fantastic destination. Again, this particular area, we highlight where the hotel is, and surrounded are all key travel destinations and tourist destinations that are walking distance from the hotel. The hotel itself, as I mentioned, 4 stars. This is your typical lobby area, your bar and restaurant, your rooms. As I mentioned, this is for 110 investors. The project is 350,000. It offers a return of 3% per year, payable upon the opening of the hotel and payable each year as long as you own the unit. And at the end, you have a guaranteed buyback. Now that's our second project. Our third project, we go all the way up to Porto, and it's called Lapa 2. Now this particular project is an expansion of our 4-star Marriott Renaissance project. This will be opening at the end of March. With this new expansion, it's adding more rooms to existing project. This will be the largest hotel and convention center in the city of Porto, right in the heart of the city. Here's a night picture. Here's an aerial shot. And here's a video. As you can see, it's well under construction. It will be opening in 2 months, a month and a half actually. And this project is just an extension of the existing project. That was our video on the project. I'll just get screen sharing. So as you notice, there's a park behind it. They've just started construction of the largest park in the city of Porto, which will be surrounding the hotel. And construction of that has already started. So here's another picture of the hotel. Now, this hotel is in an area called Lapa. It's right in the heart of the historic area, as you can see with that white picture. So on one side, you have the historic area, which gives you all the tourism. On the other side, you have the business district. So you have the best of both worlds here. You're going to get commercial business and you're going to get tourism business. As I mentioned, it's a Renaissance hotel by Marriott. The expansion itself is going to be 79 rooms. It's going to include a spa, gym, terrace, lounge area, and another swimming pool. It's for 95 investors, and the investment's $350,000. Again, we pay all your taxes. Again, you get 1 free week per year, and again, you have the guaranteed buyback at the end. So as I mentioned, it's for 95 investors. You get a 3% return per year, 3% payable upon the opening of the hotel, and payable each year as long as you own the unit. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about our track record in some of the hotels we've already opened. So we've already opened 5 hotels in Portugal. The first one is the Vinet. It's a 5-star hotel by IHG Group. And this is located in the main and oldest street in Porto. It's a 5-star property. Next one is Casa de Lirius. It's a boutique hotel in a city called Amarante, which is very famous for the Verde Verde green wine. Then you go down here, we have a Hilton 4-star hotel. It's called Sir Cathedral. And this is located, it's 80-room hotel. It's located right beside one of the most famous tourist attractions in Porto, which is the Sir Cathedral. Then we move down to the beach. we have a 4 points by Marriott. It's 1 block from the beach in the city called Matasinas. This hotel is already open. Then finally, we have a Wyndham, which is located on the famous shopping street in Porto and on Santa Catarina Street. So all these 5 properties are open and they're all doing very well. Then we'll be opening 3 hotels in the next 2 months. The first one I just talked about was the Marriott by Renaissance. Then we move on to the Hilton, which will be opening right in the historic area. It's more the cultural area of Porto, where all the artistic type people will congregate together. And then finally, we're opening our first hotel in a city called Evora. Evora is a famous tourist destination about an hour and a half from Lisbon. Very famous for wine. Then we have projects under construction. We have one in an area called Gaia. This particular project is a Marriott. It's on the other side of Porto. So from this hotel, you'll probably have some of the best views of the UNESCO Porto. So the sites here are fantastic. As you notice, there's a swimming pool there overlooking the city. At night, it becomes an outdoor restaurant. Then next, we have the Art Suites Hotel, which is just beginning construction. This is an all-suites hotel in Porto. Then we have a Holiday Inn in Porto in one of the new commercial areas. This hotel is under construction and should open by the end of the year. Then we have a second project in Evora, which is another Holiday Inn. This is under construction and should open by the first quarter of next year. Then we go down to Lagos. We have a 5-star Marriott Resort. This hotel will start construction by June. Then we go into Lisbon, which is we have a Moxie Hotel. This hotel will begin construction probably in the next 2 months. Then we go down to the Lagos again. We have 2 Hilton hotels, one 3-star, one 4-star, right on the beach. And this should start construction in the next 2 months. And then we have Lapitu, which I talked about. And then we have a Hilton hotel at the airport, which will be one of the largest hotels at the airport. And then we have one in Faro, which is an IHG 4-star hotel right on the beach, right in the historic center of the city of Faro. And then we have the 3 new projects. Beja, it's a Holiday Inn in Beja, and it was on the market for just 1 month. It's sold out already. And then we have the 2 projects we're selling right now that I mentioned earlier. So that gives you an overview of what we have and what's coming. And I can assure you there's even more stuff coming in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Jerry and Jordi and Ines for your sharing and updates. So for now, if you have any idea about a specific project that you want to take a closer look, please send us an email to our team so we can share all the information for you to review. So for now, please give me about 3 minutes to review all your questions so I can reorganize and try to send most of them to our panelists at the Q&A sections. See you in a while.
Só tu podes fazer este mundo rodar.
Só tu podes fazer a escuridão brilhar.
Só tu podes emocionar-me.
Trazer-me essa cor,
Encher o meu coração
de amor.
Só tu podes causar essa mudança.
Quando me agarras
Eu entendo essa dança. Dá-me a tua mão, tu és o meu único destino. És o meu sonho real, o meu único tu. Sou tu.
Pode causar essa mudança
Quando me agarras,
eu entendo essa dança.
dá-me a tua mão e mostra-me o teu caminho. És o meu sonho real, o meu único tu.
Visita o teu mar, o teu sol, o teu património e a tua cultura. Tu podes viajar pelo melhor destino do mundo. Visita Portugal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Q&A sections where we will focus in answering your questions. So at most of the questions sent to us share several things in common. So I already grouped them in the same category. There are four main concerns about the program. First is the processing timeline. Second is about the project. Third is about buyback. And fourth is about language and immigration. But first of all, let's start with the most important concern for everyone. It is about the future. So at the beginning November of last year, people who are interested in the Golden Visa heard a news that Portugal government was re-evaluating the Golden Visa program, whether it had completed its mission or not. And at the end of November, Parliament voted against the ending of the Golden Visa program. Then to the beginning of the year, it seems like Portugal wants to make Golden Visa as a productive investment tool. So what does the future really hold for the Golden Visa program? And will there be any sudden change in legislation during the year 2023? So I guess for these questions, you might all want to share all the opinion from the developer side and from the legal side. So I guess Ines and Jerry and Jory.
Okay, I'll go first. Portugal runs on an annual budget system, and usually the budgetary items are set in November, December for the following year. Yes, there was a discussion about possibly closing the program, but when the eventual budget came out, it wasn't an item that was put into the budget. So we feel that the program for this year is fine, and anybody that would make an investment prior to September would be fine. One can never tell what will happen in the course of the year and whether people will change or other factors will come to effect. All I can assure you that anybody that invests this year will be fine. Next year, I don't know if I can comment. I am optimistic, but at the same time, you never know, should the rules change or should the price change? But I do know that on the next horizon of the next 6 to 9 months, we're all okay. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you, Jerry. I would like to just briefly expand on what we see on the screen, which is a statement which was made at the end of January, which says that the government is going to focus on Golden Visa that is related to what they call productive investments. Actually, they went even beyond that, and they specifically said, we want to focus on investments related to logistics and tourism and hospitality. So we just happen to be at the right spot of the priority of the Portuguese government.
Yeah, I can complete, maybe complete a bit that information from the legal perspective. So just to give you kind of a broad view on how the changes on the regime have, they work organically and they have worked in the past. So for now, in order to change the Golden Visa program, this is a law that needs to be approved in the state budget and comes into place in the year immediately after the approval or whenever the parliament decides to apply it. So if any changes would be introduced for the following year, they would be approved closer to the end of the year and they would come in place. They would come into place in 2024 or in 2025. So yes, it's true that the Prime Minister had made those declarations. We are also following up closely within the government, within the committee that is supposed to be created to check this information. But so far, we have no news on that. As I mentioned, for 2023, no changes will be applicable because the law does not allow for any changes. And there's an advantage in coming in early. So let's imagine that indeed some changes occur, not necessarily the end of the program, but an increase in the cost of investment. For instance, the floors are increased, certain cities stop qualifying. Once you become part, so if you invest immediately or if you invest during this year, you will be grandfathered in the rules that you are that are in place at the date of your investment. So this means that any changes that come in the future, you will be safeguarded from them. They will not affect you. You will benefit from the regime that exists today. So changes are normal. These programs tend to change. Other programs have changed. So what we have been telling to our investors is, if you are interested in investing, yes, we don't have on the short term any visibility on any changes, but you will never be more sure that you get the best regime possible unless you do invest in the current program, because the next year will be the next year.
Thank you, Ines and Jerry and Jory, for your sharing. And it's good to hear that nothing will change for this year. So how about the processing timeline, Ines? We have seen some progress for the renewal application. So how about a new application? Will the change from the renewal make a good impact on the timing for the new submitted one?
Yes, Jasmine, I do think so. The backlog that existed for renewals caused by the pandemic has been resolved with the automatic renewals. We do not know if this way of doing renewals will continue or if it was just a way for SEV, for the Immigration Authority, to address this backlog that was created by the pandemic. But in any case, this will for sure make available more slots for appointments for investors waiting to be admitted in the program. So the biometric collection, the appointments for submission, so for approval at the concession of the Golden Visa stage. So this will have a direct and immediate impact in terms of availabilities for vacancies for investors. The same thing regarding timelines for pre-approvals. So we had a huge demand, a surge of demand at the end of the year of 2021, and SEF, as we know, has been through some changes because of all the government changes and elections and everything. But we have been seeing some really increasing speed for pre-approvals and for approvals. So we do believe that we are very close to the point where the surge of demand is resolved, and we go into the same level that we were in the past, where there's a constant number of investors investing in the program. And this will allow to reduce, on the one hand, the deadlines, the timelines for the coming to Portugal for biometrics, and on the other hand, also the deadlines for pre-approvals and for approvals, meaning the analysis of the investors' files.
Okay, thank you, Ines. I think I will come back to you again for a more specific question about the processing timeline. So now let's take a look at the question for the project, the buyback. So we do have several questions about the buybacks, and the main concern is how you can build up enough fund to be able to do the buyback. And do you provide annual financial report, and how to ensure that the project is managed properly? I think that questions, Jordy, would you mind to have an input?
Yes. So, how we can build enough fund to be able to buy back? Yeah, that's a crucial question. So, as we mentioned before, the key component of our business model is we have no debt, which means that from day one, when we generate cash flows from the hotels, these cash flows are dedicated or placed in a redemption fund whose purpose is exclusively to provide enough funds for the buyback, which means that by year 6 or 7 or 8, when we will be executing the buyback upon request from the investors, we will have built up enough funds to actually buy back these investors. Of course, if need be, as I mentioned, because we have no debt, we will have access to also external sources of financing. And one of the ways that, of course, the investors can keep the progress on the evolution of the results of the hotels is through the annual report. So we provide regular reports about the financial performance of the hotels. And a key question, which is one and has been one of the main reasons why we have partnered with the major brands, such as Hilton, Marriott, Intercontinental, and Wyndham. This partnership, provides a requirement from their side of a very thorough governance, which means that together we learn from their best practices, and we make sure that these best practices are applied to have our properties properly managed.
Thank you, Jordy. So understand that the buybacks is guaranteed, but is it mandatory, or can the investor choose to keep the investment?
Yes, actually, the investor can choose to keep the investment. Of course, up till year 12. And actually, many investors, we expect that they will be enjoying of course, in the 350,000 euro category, the returns. And in any case, whether it's 350,000 euros or 280,000 euros investment category, the investor will be able to enjoy the 7 days per year for free in any of the Mercan properties.
So you mean in any of Mercan properties, which mean that they can use 7 days per year for one location, and then the next year they can trade it with another hotel of Mercan?
Absolutely, of course, subject to availability. And as I mentioned before, Portugal is a very sought after destination. So if you're planning to spend any time in the properties, you should make sure that you book in advance.
Okay, thank you. That's quite interesting, and I think so many people will like that. Thank you, Jordy. So one question for Jerry, as you already presented 3 options. So one question from our guest is, who is the partner brand for the San Andre Ocean View Hotel? Can you share a little bit information about the brand? Jerry?
I'm sorry, which hotel?
The Ocean View Hotel.
Ocean
Little
View.
Comporta. Little Comporta.
Yeah, that's going to, as I mentioned, it's a 4-star hotel located on the beach.
Mm-hmm. So for this hotel, can you speak a little bit about a buyback process? Because somebody asked about if you guessed 65 investor for Ocean View, And if they all want to have a buyback at the same time, how is the buyback process? I think there's no scenario that 65 investor will request a buyback at the same time, but I guess people want to know about the buyback process and how you can be able to.
Well, the buyback process is the same for every project. So it's the same process, the same procedure. Basically, as Jordy said, all the hotels have no debt on them at all. So it's all equity. With all equity, your cash flow is significantly higher. So all the cash flows are generated from the operations of the hotel are set aside into a fund for buying back investors. As Jordy mentioned, by year 7, when the first buybacks occur, we've accumulated over 50% of the funds to buy back the investors. But not everybody will cash out at the same time. Some people, for whatever reason, whether it's language, whether it's personal situation, will tend to cash out over time. Now, if at any point in time, the demand for the buyback exceeded the funds we had available, because we have no debt on the property at all, we could very easily access lines of credit or other debt instruments to cover any shortfalls that we may have. So we overcapitalize at the front end to ensure we have leverage at the back end, should it be required.
Thank you, Jerry. So for the buyback, I do have another question from the investor. So do the investor have to pay any tax when receiving the refund of the investment?
No.
At the time of buyback?
No, you basically, you're in at 280, you're out at 280. So, based, your entire, on a 280 project like that, you're in for 280,000. And the only other investment costs you really have is the stamp duty and notary fees of about 2,500. So this really gives you the lowest cost point. So if people are looking to minimize their exposure, their investment, that's the way to go.
Thank you, Jerry. Now we're taking back to the processing timeline again for Inets, because we do have some current investor in this webinar. And it seems like they all submitted the application by December of 2021, but they still don't have any visibility on the approval time. So maybe can you help to explain a little bit of the current situation of files that submitted by December of 2021, and how soon you think that they can get the online approval and moving to the next stage? Inés.
Of course, like I mentioned, the big surge in demand for the program had its peak in December 2021. Why? Because the residential component of the program, the investment in residential properties, ended by the end of that year. This means that we had more applications for the Golden Visa program in December than the whole year of 2021. So currently we are in day 15 of December. We are getting pre-approvals daily, but all for processes submitted, the last one is 15 December. So we have 15 days more to go, okay? And then we'll go immediately to June. So all investors that were submitted in December should be receiving their pre-approvals in the coming weeks. That's what we believe. Because in fact, like I said, we had a huge surge in demand, and CEF, well, it's a governmental entity, they didn't reinforce the teams to respond to that surge. So we had a bit of a delay for those investors. That being said, after that peak is climbed and we go to the other side, we will go immediately to the month of June of 2022, because then the platform was closed, as we know, and applications were submitted in June. So we expect, like I said, that after this initial stage where investors that were submitted at the peak of the demand of the program get their pre-approvals, they will be invited, receive notice to come for biometric almost immediately, okay? So the process will end up resolving itself, because once they come for biometrics, they then will be approved, the cards will be issued, and the 5 years will start to count. This is it's one of the problems of having a very popular program. There's a big demand because all the characteristics of the country plus the qualities of the program that created a very, very big surge in demand, like I said, in the end of 2021. But we do believe that this situation will be overcome within the next few weeks. Okay.
So let's say for the next few weeks that they might receive the online approval and then they head to the biometrics. So
like I said, we are on the day 15 of December. So we are half month of December. So we have 15 more days to go until we are at the end of December, and the surge, the big peak is resolved. So we do believe that in the next, we are receiving pre-approvals daily. That's how we know in which date CEF is in terms of analysis. Right now we are on the 15th. Yes, we wait for clients that were submitted on the 16th, 17th, 18th to have their files resolved, to have their pre-approvals issued within the next few weeks. That's what we hope for.
Mm-hmm. And after they get the online approval, then they move to the biometrics. So can they get the biometrics as soon as possible, like within 1 or 2 months, or they have to wait for another 4 or 5
because
months?
the next batch of biometrics will be sent probably closer to the end of March. So everyone gets pre-approved until the end of March. Will be getting a notice for biometrics to come between April and June. Okay, so that's what we are counting on. So let's imagine people that got pre-approved, that are getting pre-approvals for the month of December, will now wait until the end of March 2023, and they will be able to come between April and June, most likely. That's what we are waiting for. That's what we are hoping for. So I think the situation, like I said, I do believe that the worst is behind us in terms of timelines. And as soon as we get over the month of December, we will have a much more streamlined process. We understand that for investors that did invest in December, it's been quite a hurdle. But in fact, like I said, it comes from the fact that there was a big surge in demand. So nothing related to that specific investors process, which is something that also worries our investors. We know that they want to know, is it something about me, a family member? No, this is, a lot of demand in terms of applications.
Actually, this is a very good news because one, they know that they will get the approval soon, then they will come to the biometrics like within 2 or 3 months. Yeah,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So what about the new submission? So as I see that from the backlog time that people, when they submit, they have to wait for like 5 or 6 months to get the online approval. And before, if we compare with the statistic before the COVID time, I think it's about 3 weeks that they can get the online approval. So how do you think about
I don't think that
timeline?
we'll ever get back to the 3 weeks, to be honest. There's a lot of demand. Well, just Mercan clients wouldn't allow for the 3 weeks, to be honest. But like I said, I think that the CEF is doing as fast as they can because it's a governmental entity and we all know the pace that they move at, as best as they can to resolve the past. Some of this was created by COVID, by the pandemic. If people weren't able to come for biometrics, so delays, a lot of backlog. Some of it comes indeed from the fact that the program became very popular in the last years, and human resources in governmental entities, they just don't get hired as easily. But the fact that the residential component has been over for a year, we will start seeing the results of that policy come into place. What will the timelines be for the future? I think that we are getting very close to getting a real timeline for the future as soon as we end the pre-approvals for the month of December.
So we all hope that by April, everything will be moving forward with better timeline.
At a more normal and stable pace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We remain hopes. And one question for you more before we move into the other category. is for those who was originally given an appointment to do the biometrics during the pandemic time, but they couldn't make it. And it seemed like their file got lost. So what actions that they can take if there has been a long delay in obtaining a new appointment for those who got stuck in the pandemic years?
Yeah. So what we have been doing, we've been acting in two different components. On one side, we have been formally requesting CEF to book these appointments for these individuals. So we've been sending letters, we've been going to CEF, we've been requesting meetings to get appointments for these individuals. When this is not happening, what we are proposing to investors is filing a lawsuit against CEF to get their biometrics scheduled. We've been very successful in this action. I know that a lot of investors are worried that this could become like a dark brand on their application. That's not the case, okay? The government won't be upset because you sue them. The fact is that you are entitled to an appointment. You should have received it in the past. And that's what the courts have been understanding so far. And their decisions have been in that sense. Meaning, of course, there needs to be a reason why you didn't come in the past. You need to have a document or documents that explain that you were given an appointment on the X and the airports were closed, you got COVID, whatever problems, whatever situation that prevented you from coming, it must be duly documented, of course, because indeed you were given an opportunity to come and you failed to appear. But if that is the case and you have a valid reason to not come to Portugal for that specific appointment, our recommendation to our investors is to sue CEF. We are doing this for several investors. We've been very successful so far. And second side of the coin, if you do decide to sue CEF, you need to be ready to come in the 10 days after the decision, the positive decision is made. We can ask for a delay on those 10 days, okay? But ideally, once the positive decision is issued, CEF should issue an appointment for you to come in the next 10 days. So we need to coordinate. Let's imagine we need a visa to come to Portugal. We need to make sure that everything works out so that once you receive the positive court decision, then you are able to immediately come to Portugal. Okay, but this is something that we have been doing with some of our investors. We are more than able to help and assist investors that are in this situation. The only thing that they need to do is contact that is responsible, and they will be given the exact procedure, costs, everything that this situation entails. But we have been successful so far in this kind of situation, and we've gotten a lot of our investors that are unfortunately in that situation the possibility to come and to get their biometric appointment.
Wow, so that's really give a hope and a way out for those who get stuck in the application times during the backlog. Yeah,
exactly.
Thank you, Ines. So now we're coming to the project category where we also received several questions about the projects and the Marriott Lapa Phase 1. And also I received another question about Marriott Lapa Phase 2. So when will Marriott Lapa Phase 1 be completed, and when will I be able to make a 1-week stay reservation there? And we are planning to be in Porto in June 23 for our annual 7-day stay. This is a question from our current investor that already invested in the Marriott Lapa. So I guess, Jordi, can you help to answer this question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jasmine. So the construction of Marriott Lapa Phase 1 is actually completed. So we completed the construction on time. So now we are doing all the furniture and fixtures. So which means that in the next 2 months, together with the telecom infrastructure, the hotel will be ready for the scheduled opening on March 27th. So together with Marriott, we are working very hard to make sure that it becomes the largest convention center hotel in the center of Porto, And we also working on the park, as Jerry mentioned, which is going to be the largest park in the center of Porto, which means that this investor will be able to schedule to book his or her annual 7-day stay in June 2023.
Thank you. So the date is set, March 27.
Yes, but as I mentioned, when we set a date, it means that, and especially subject to the Marriott support, and sometimes to the licensing approvals. But yes, we have an estimated date of March 27th, Monday, March 27th.
Great. So I guess for the hosting policy, the investor will reach out to the hosting team to do the reservations when the hotel is ready, right?
Yes, we will be delighted to accommodate their requirements, and we'll look forward to hosting the investor here in Porto.
Great. Thank you, Jordi. And the next question is about the Lapa 2. It's a very interesting question, so I'd like to send it to Jerry. For a potential investor who asked that they already attended the webinar of Mercan sometime last year, and they already hear the information about the Lapa 2. So why the Lapa 2 is on the market again? And I thought it was sold out back in September 2022. Could you please clarify this?
Yeah,
Jerry?
that's a very good question. We did put the Lapa 2 on the market because there was a small transaction that was required to do the deed for the project. So in fact, it was sold out, but unfortunately, sometimes bureaucracy and red tape can get the better of you. And in this particular situation, it delayed the actual execution of the deeds. So while it was sold out, some people chose to move forward in another project because they wanted to move their golden visas along. And frankly speaking, I get it, and that's probably a smart decision. So now everything was settled. And yes, it opened up some slots. So there is an opportunity for people. I think we probably have about 20 slots left for people that want to get on this project. It's a great project. It sold out last time in a month. It's probably going to sell out this time in a month as well. So yeah, it is available. And the unique thing about this project is right next door, it's opening up on March 27th.
And what is the construction timeline for Lapa 2?
It's imminent. Construction should start very, very shortly.
So great. And thanks for the questions about the projects. Now we're moving to the immigration and the language category. So let's start with the A2 language test. And something interesting about what IAS is offering to people is the platform learning Portuguese language. So first of all, is about the language criteria. Can you explain the A2 language test? It is compulsory for anyone who applied for citizenship. And where can we get that test or the certificate? Ines, can you help?
Yes, of course. Basically, yes, the A2 language test is mandatory for permanent residency or citizenship. It's a basic Portuguese test. It's comprised of listening, speaking, and writing. So it has 3 specific modules, the test itself. The platform that we have has pre-recorded and live lessons, and it has a duration, an average duration of 6 months, okay, where you can do the classes, do the tests that the Portuguese teacher has there, do the classes with the Portuguese teacher. Susana is our Portuguese teacher. She works exclusively with investors that want to pass the A2 test. And she hasn't had an investor that has failed the test, which I think is good news. So you have the basic language skills, but you also have some information about Portugal, like the rivers, the train stations, general information that is a bit outside the scope of normal courses, normal language courses. That's why it's important that investors do a course that is specifically designed for investors that want to access Portuguese citizenship or the permanent residency, because the test really has some specialities about it. One interesting thing that we have is the fact that the test doesn't have an end, a validity, a term, a deadline. It can be as soon as you get approved, it's valid forever. So this allows you during your 5-year period of residency, temporary residency with the Golden Visa, to calmly prepare yourself to do the test. Okay, so you can decide to do it whenever. We do advise our investors to plan this situation, the test itself, because there's a lot of demand. So there's a list actually of the evaluation centers that allow you to do this. They are spread in several places around the world. Like I said, this information is all included on our website. You can go there, you can check. You can also check the platform there. So you can do it here, you can do it abroad. And it's something that requires some planning, because the available slots, there's a limited number of course applications, and they tend to be sold out or used very, very quickly. So it's important to plan when you want to do it. This is something that our Portuguese teacher can really help you with, because she's always on top of what was the last exam, what were the questions, how long, how the best procedure for you to enroll yourself in the Portuguese test. So as soon as you start the program, as soon as you start working with her, she's the best person to really give you this information. Like I said, basic Portuguese test, a little bit of information about Portugal, but I do believe that the best way to go about it is to just take some time. Well, take it as an hobby, learning a new language and using the platform, because as investors, it was designed exclusively for them. They have a reduction in terms of the cost of the course. And like I said, you can't really beat 100% of success, right? So no way this could go wrong, I would say.
But when it's come to the citizen application, everyone needs to pass the A2 test, including the children under 18 years old?
No, children under 18 do not need to pass the Portuguese test, because they apply through their parents. So to be to apply for Portuguese citizenship on yourself, you must be over 18 or emancipated. Then you apply by yourself. Children under the 18, they apply with their parents. So they are not, it's not necessary for children, for underage children to pass the Portuguese test.
Okay, so they can apply the citizenship through their parents who convert to the citizenship successfully.
Exactly, without the need to do the Portuguese test. Some people do the Portuguese test, some teenagers do the Portuguese test because they want to learn, but indeed it's not a requirement.
Okay, thank you, Ines. And moving to another questions about immigration for the children too. So I received another questions. Do the children included in the applications have to be below 26 during the renewals? So say, if you included a 22-year-old with you in the GB application and he exists 26 when second renewal, what happens?
Well, there's not an age limit for adult children to be part of their parents' process. The key word here is dependency. Children need to be, the sons, the daughters, need to be dependent on parents. So the older they get, the harder it gets to prove dependency. There's a requirement in Portugal for Portuguese individuals where once you turn 25, you are no longer considered dependent on your parents. This does not apply to Golden Visa, okay? As long as a child is enrolled full-time at the time of the renewals in school and it's not married, there's no need, the age is not a factor to be considered. What we do advise investors to know is that the older a child gets, the more substantiated the proof of dependency needs to be, okay? So if a child is 18 or if a child is 28, of course the requirements might vary a bit, although like I said, we have all these situations and we've been able to successfully prove dependency so far because people are enrolled full-time in school and they are not married, okay? These are the main requirements that need to be complied with.
Thank you, Ines. Because so many people, they confuse about the age of the children and also how far that the children can follow the GV application together with them. So I think this questions already clear their mind about the family reunification for children. So one more questions about the immigration before we come to the other questions about the projects. So another questions for Ines. I understand there is a requirement of a 7-day stay in Portugal per year in order to get you the residency. Is this required every year until you get the citizenship or just to get the first card?
No, you need to comply with the requirements for the temporary residency every year. So every year you need to stay 7 days in Portugal, or if your card's validity is of 2 years, you can stay 14 days every 2 years. But this is not just for the first card. This is for, you need to prove that you comply with the stay requirements every time that you renew your card. So you need to come every year or every 2 years, depending on the validity of your card. To have a better more clarity on this, we would need, of course, to check the card when the validity and so on, but the general rule that applies is this one.
Okay, thank you, Ines. Okay, one more last question for you for the immigration about the Portuguese passport. How long does it take when you apply for the Portuguese citizenship?
Well, right now we just did an 4 applications yesterday, and we were told 8 months. By the registration, by the Portuguese registration, because this is not done at CEF, this is another entity. So we did 4 applications yesterday, and the public register that does this, Conservatório de Registro Civil, it's the name in Portuguese, told us that we would get the approval should be issued within 8 months.
8 months. Okay.
8 months.
So after 5 years, you submit the documents for the naturalization and you wait about 8 months. Let's say between 8 months to 12 months,
yes,
right?
Yes, that's a very good deadline. We looked all over Portugal to try and find the best location to do these applications. I think that we found it, and it's about 8 months. Of course, these individuals already have the Portuguese test. They already have the A2 level, they passed the Portuguese test. They have the certificate.
Thank you. Thank you, Ines. So I come back a little bit with Jerry and Jordi on the project. So Jerry, one question for you for the project. Can we use the fund from a loan in the USA to apply for the Golden Visa?
Yes. Generally speaking, whatever financing arrangements you arrange outside Portugal are generally acceptable. But within Portugal, you must send 350 or 280,000, and it cannot be mortgaged at all in Portugal.
Okay, thank you. And Jordi, to follow up, another very interesting questions about Mercan clients. With such amazing success in opening hotels to date in Portugal, how many individual buybacks that we have been completed for our project?
Actually, as Ines mentioned, We are in the process of submitting applications for the first citizenships. So we expect the first successful citizenships to happen during this year. So we expect to have the first buybacks during this year.
Oh, great. So I guess it's the investor from Casa Compañía, the first 5-star hotel that we have in Portugal, right? In Porto.
That's correct.
Correct. Thank you, Jordi. So one last question for all of you before we end the sections. And for sure, I still receive a lot of questions from everyone, but again, the topic remains the same, the immigration, the language, the project. And we were trying to send all the answers to everyone as soon as possible. And one last question for three of you. What predictions that you think that the Golden Visa program will be changed, will have some change for all of you? So to start with, Jerry?
I guess I could go first. I believe the program has been very successful, very economically beneficial to the country. I think the changes they made at the end of last year when they eliminated the residential real estate have improved the program tremendously. I believe that we're good for this year. I don't see changes this year. And I do anticipate that probably there won't be any changes next year. So I'm more optimistic that the program will continue. At some point, there will be changes like any program, changes to coincide with economic policy. And of course, there's always going to be a review of pricing. So that's my thoughts.
Prediction. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
thoughts.
Jerry. How about you, Jordi?
Well, we've been in regular dialogue with the government on this matter, and one of the key things that the government has mentioned, and we're quite confident on that, is that program, the Golden Visa program, will probably evolve into a more strict monitoring of the economic value of the investments. And so in our case, we have already created over 500 jobs, if we include the construction jobs and the corporate jobs and the hospitality jobs. So this is one thing that we are pretty confident that the government, in any change of the Golden Visa program, will take into consideration, which is investing into infrastructure like hospitality. And then, as Jerry said, yes, probably down the road, a certain review on the amounts is possible.
Thank you, Jordi. And Ines, how about the processing timeline? Can we see something that the processing timeline will be reduced to 12 months?
Well, we hope so, but regarding the changes in the program, I think that, yes, we'll have eventually changes. And I reinforce what I said. People will never get it as good as it is today in the future. It's not going to get better. It's not going to get lower investment. You won't get, I think that it's a very sought out program. Other programs have been closed down because they don't comply with European Union regulations. It's a very serious program, and it's not going to be here like this forever. So I think that there's a very good window within the next months that should be, that people that have been on the fence, will I not do it, will do it. And again, I don't believe that the processing timelines will ever be as bad as they were in the past. That being said, they won't be as good as they were in 2019. Let's forget about it. But they will never, to be honest, my honest opinion and what I tell investors, there will never be a better time to invest as now. So for every reason, they will get the backlog. They will probably get automatic renewals. They will save a lot of money coming to Portugal just for the renewals. So it's very important to look at the context that you have today. There's political stability, which is not something very normal currently in Europe, as we can see elections in other countries and so on, coalitions. Right now we have a majority government, which is something very, very rare in Europe. So the current environment is very, very favorable to investors. So I don't like to do predictions. Lawyers, as we know, we are all very averse to risk, but the current time, I think, is very, very key. And the current projects that Mercan has, Portugal is a very small country too. So the current projects that Mercan has are very interesting. The brands really believe in them. So to be honest, I think that the time is now.
Thank you, Ines. So thanks for all of your opinion and advice to people who are interested in the program. And it's been more than an hour with a lot of information given. And we will try to send you the answer by email to all of your questions for tomorrow as soon as possible. And we really hope to host you very soon this year in Portugal as an investor of Mercan. And again, thanks Jerry, Jordi, and Ines for your valuable opinions and updates. We hope to see everyone soon in our next webinar for Nomad. And now, goodbye and take care, everyone.
Thank you.